recording. Okay, so it looks like we're recording and I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, folks. We're going to let folks start tuning in here and we'll get started in a minute. We invite those who are hopping on already to, if you feel called, to share your name and where you're tuning in from in the chat, just so we have a sense of who's joining us here today. There might be an option to select to everyone or just to the hosts. And if you would like other folks to see where you're tuning in from, you can click everyone. You can start getting an idea of who's in the room with us today. Great, thanks, folks. We already have some representation across the state. Welcome. Some familiar names. Great, thank you, everyone. So I'm going to start us off with some technical logistics. First, your line is muted, and you'll notice that your video is not enabled, and that is because this is a Zoom webinar instead of a Zoom meeting. So this is a one-way broadcast, and the main way you can interact with us today is through the chat and also through the Q&A feature. So we invite you to share any comments you have in the chat, but also to specifically put your questions into the Q&A feature, which is a different icon. And that'll help us keep track of your questions throughout the session. We also want to let you know that this session is being live captioned, automatic live captions. You can access those if they're not already showing up by clicking the CC icon at the bottom of your Zoom pane. You can look at them through subtitles, or also you can choose full transcript and it brings up a box to the side. And if you're seeing the subtitles and you think they're distracting, you're welcome to click that icon and turn them off as well. We also want to let folks know that this session is being recorded today, and it will be archived on our website, the Virginia Beginning Farmer and Rancher Coalition website. And we will notify folks on our email listserv when that's ready. If you're not on our listserv and you'd like to join, you can email me at ketrazo@vt.edu with the subject line join VBFRC listserv. And Kim will be putting that here in the chat in a second. I also want to invite you, if you have any technical difficulties today, to just contact me, Katie Trazo, in the chat. You're also welcome to email me at my email address, which is also, Kim just put that in the chat so you can reference it later. With that, I'm going to pass it on to Kim Nawalny to introduce our speaker today.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Kim Nawalny. If we have not yet met before, I am here at Virginia Tech and Virginia Co-op Extension, the director of our Virginia Beginning Farmer Rancher Coalition program, and serve in a couple different capacities. But today, firmly wearing my Beginning Farmer hat, proudly and very excited. We are very thrilled to have Jen Perkins with us from the Virginia Office of Farmland Preservation with the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Jen has been a long-time advocate for supporting new and beginning farmers and farmers across the lifespan to gain access to affordable and appropriate land so we can start and keep our farmers going in viable operations. I love to share a little bit more about Jen for you all to put things into context. And so she's an incredible resource. So we want to make sure you get to know her and get to learn about what we're going to talk about today. Of course, the Virginia FarmLink new website, which is more than just a website, it's a resource. And it's an incredibly important resource. So as a native Middleburg Virginian, Jen has developed a passion for farms and conservation from an early age. After a few years working in the land conservation with the Piedmont Environmental Council Jen landed at the Virginia Outdoors Foundation and spent several years as an easement specialist, negotiating easement projects primarily in the northern Piedmont. But after completing a master's in public policy, Jen relocated to Richmond and since 2018 has been the farmland preservation coordinator at the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, where there she is responsible for land conservation policy, administering the state's purchase of development rights program and FarmLink and Century Farm programs. Jen has her hands full and conservation, supporting farmers, supporting land, and really keeping a really essential part of agriculture in a productive, viable, and sustainable way. And so we are just really excited about hearing more about the FarmLink. I mean, for me, FarmLink has been part of my life come well before actually Virginia, but not every state has a FarmLink program, but many do. And Virginia's is unique the way it's organized. It's a smart program, and it's really essential to the large profile of opportunities to keep new and beginning farmers viable by way of entry into access to land. And so it's one of the big 4 barriers, folks: access to appropriate and affordable land. So Jen's going to talk to us about the FarmLink program and how it helps as an important resource. So Jen, it's all you.
Great, thank you. All right, I am going to share my screen. Oops, hold on. It's not working. Hold on one second. There we go. Okay, so yes, my name is Jen Perkins. I am in the Office of Farmland Preservation. And as Kim said, I have my hands full with a lot of different things, FarmLink being part of that. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. But I always like to pitch at the beginning that VDACS is a large agency with a lot of resources. So if there's other things as you're beginning farming, you're mid-career farming, and need help with things, you can always reach out to me now that you know me, and I can point you in the right direction. So today we are going to talk about the FarmLink website. I'm going to run through just a little background on why this is an important resource for Virginia, and then talk about a little bit of the history of the program, and then do a brief overview of the website in the slideshow. And then I'm going to jump over to the actual website because I think that's easier to understand how it works. So. All right, so why do we need farm transition resources and programming? So as we all know, we are losing land. The land classified as agriculture in Virginia, as you can see in these statistics from 1960 to 2017, we lost almost half of the land that was in agriculture. And as Kim mentioned, one of the biggest barriers to keeping land in agriculture, particularly for beginning farmers, is the cost of land. And then of course, the other startup costs that go along with that. And then hand in hand with all of the land loss and development pressure, we have in Virginia and across the country an aging farm population. And as the boomers begin to age out, we are going to see a major intergenerational transfer of wealth. And that includes farms, farm businesses, and potentially there are farmers out there who don't have anyone in the next generation or 2 generations down that want to take the business over. So all of these things came together, and the General Assembly realized that this is something that we really need to focus on. So it was established in the Virginia Code as part of the Office of Farmland Preservation's an expansion of the Office of Farmland Preservation. And then the database, the first iteration was released in 2008. And the idea is to connect people who own farms and farm businesses who are retiring and want to see their land stay in production, their business continue, and they don't have an obvious heir to take over. And to connect them with beginning and aspiring farmers who are looking for land and who need, not necessarily just the land, but maybe other equipment, knowledge, mentorship from seasoned producers. So this is a partnership with the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Farm Bureau is a grassroots organization. I'm sure many of you are familiar with them. And their Young Farmer Committee realized that this is hugely important. So we entered into a partnership with them to revamp the website. So as I said, 2008 was the original database. We were one of the first in the country, and then a lot of people, other states modeled their programs after us, but then we got outpaced, I would say. So our website over a couple of years kind of got a little stagnant. And so we worked with Farm Bureau to do a ton of research on the old database, what was working, what wasn't, what people wanted to see, what improvements could be made. And then we also talked to a lot of other LandLink organizations across the country to see, what's working for them. And that is what all that research we put into a relaunch of the website, which happened in December of 2021. So like I said, I'm just going to breeze through some of the traits of the website and then jump over to the website itself. But there are 4 main components of the website: find a farmer, find farmland, becoming a certified farm seeker, and then our resources library. So finding a farmer, if you are someone who is looking for land, so you are a farm seeker, this is the profile you want to set up. So you would sign up as a farm seeker and fill out a profile that asks a ton of questions on, how much acreage, where do you want to be, what type of farming do you want to do, or do you want to do beef cattle, do you want to do goats, do you want to do vegetables? And then you can also pick on location, obviously, but you can also choose the entire state if you are not picky. And then you can choose a desired transition, and that includes purchase of land, lease with the option to purchase, and then there's also partnership with a farmer. So once you fill that out, you'll have a little profile created that people who have farmland can look at. And one of the things that we added when we did this overhaul of the website is, well, first of all, we added searchability on all of these different things to make it easier to narrow things down when you're looking through the listings. But then we also included kind of open boxes where you can talk a little bit more about what you're hoping to do, your goals, your background, anything that could kind of give a farmer a little bit, but someone who owns a farm, more information about you to see if it would potentially be a good match. So find farmland if you are, basically it's the same thing, but if you own land and you are looking to find someone, you basically do the same type of thing, but here you can also add in what type of infrastructure and equipment you have available, if you have any, including farmer housing, fencing, irrigation, all of that. And then there's the opportunity to put up pictures, which if anyone out there is listing a farm, I always recommend. And so when you go to the website, this is just a snapshot of what the different pages look like. What happens prior to you setting up a profile is you can see all of the different listings like this, but it's not until you set up a profile that you would actually be able to go in and see all of the additional information. And it is free to set up your profile. It does have to get approved by me now. And so sometimes it takes a day or two between, setting up the profile and then actually being able to access the full site. But I try to go in once or twice a day and approve, but sometimes, weekends, or if I'm on vacation, it can take a little bit longer. So I also wanted to touch on the Certified Farm Seeker program. So this is a program that was started in conjunction with Farm Bureau a number of years ago. And basically the idea is we wanted to create a way that people who have farmland could feel comfortable that the individuals that they're interacting with are people who understand farming, they're committed to being a farmer. So before, putting in a lot of time and effort in developing a relationship, they wanted to know that this is someone that they can trust. So this program, what you do is you need to provide us with a farm business plan, resume, and then you indicate your on-farm experience. And there's two ways to do that. If you're an experienced farmer, that's relatively easy. You do your whole farming module, fill out sort of what it is that you're hoping to do, and then indicate what type of on-farm experience you've had. And if you don't have on-farm experience, we can send you to some resources in order to get that experience. And the benefits of becoming a certified farm seeker, in addition to obviously giving some comfort to farm owners, is when we will put a little icon next to your name on the website, and then when search results come back, the certified farm seekers will be put at the top of the list. So that could be beneficial in the event that they've used really wide search parameters and a ton of potential farm seekers come back. So the resource library is the other big component of the website. These are the 4 big categories that we have. I'll walk through these when we go to the website. This is something that we are really working on building out. We are trying to basically become a clearinghouse of information on resources for beginning farmers, for how to get your business plan together, how to transition. We sort of want to be a one-stop shop that we can send you to all of our partners and their good information. But what I always like to say is, if there is something out there that you think would be super helpful and it's something that we could put together or provide, please let me know. And because we're really trying to create new materials to put up here. So that's my contact information. We can put that in the chat also, but now I want to jump over to the actual website. Okay. All right, so this is the website. Now, yours is going to look a little bit different. You won't have this information at the top. That's because I'm an administrator, but the rest of it should look the same. So this is the Find Farmland page. So you can see as you go down, these are all of the different ways that you can search. But then we also have a map of all of the locations of the properties. Now, sometimes these are the exact location if the farm owner felt comfortable putting in their actual address. In other cases, it might be just sort of in the general area. So maybe someone, let's say, lives near Stanton, they would put Stanton down as the location if they didn't want to put their actual address. But so you can see where everything is located. And then all of the farms are listed by region so that you can, more easily narrow down if you don't want to do a full search, you just want to poke around. So my internet was a little slow, so I set this up in advance. So I want to show you kind of how to walk through searching for farmland work. So this is a search I put together. So I said, okay, I'm a farmer, farm seeker, and I am looking for acreage between 11 and 250 acres. And I want to lease, and I want to be in the Northern Valley. So I apply the filters on that, and I came up on that particular search with 3 different projects or properties. So I picked this one to take a look at. So this is what you would see if you decide to, dig a little bit deeper. So this is obviously 26 to 100 acres, a farmable land. This person did put up pictures, which I'm always very thankful about because it can give you a better idea of what you're actually working with. And then, has indicated what's available, what the past or current use is. And then they did include some of their goals, values, and vision so that you can go in and say, okay, does this look like something that would work for me? And then at the bottom, you can contact the farm owner directly through the website. So if this looked good to you, type your message, hit submit, and they will receive an email. So on the farm seeker side, if you are looking for a farmer, this is sort of the page. This is what they would be working with. And again, you can go through and limit by all sorts of different criteria. So I picked someone here. I picked Kelly to take a look at. So let's say Kelly met my search criteria. And then this is what that profile looks like. And this one did a really good job of giving information on what they are hoping to do. So they have a small herd of registered cows in Connecticut, looking to move south. So as I said, the more information you can put in, the better. And you can include what types of experience and education you have. And then again, since this is someone looking to move from out of state, I think they chose every single location. And then again, at the bottom, you can be contacted directly through the site. So our Become a Certified Farm Seeker, it's this link up here. This page will walk you through what the Certified Farm Seeker program is, and then show you how to complete this if that is something that is of interest to you. And of course, I'm always available to answer any questions if you have any. And then finally, I wanted to touch on the resources, as I mentioned before. So here we have lease resources, including templates for different leases. There's also a lease builder that can help, lease rate information, all sorts of good information here if you're getting into a lease agreement. Farm business planning and site evaluation, again, good information here. We have a partial list of our partners here, but if you go to the site and you think there are other good providers, again, please let me know. And then here we are going to be building out farm transition resources. So we have a Planning the Future of Your Farm workbook, which is a pretty big comprehensive workbook that goes through, if you have a farm business, what you need to be thinking about when you're talking about passing it on to the next generation, or what you need to be thinking about if there is no one that needs, in your family that will be taking it, what you need to think about if you're going to sell it to somebody else. And then this is an area where we are going to be working on creating sort of smaller, hopefully maybe some videos on things that people need to know about, but kind of easier to digest pieces of information, because the workbook itself can be a little bit intimidating. It's a lot of good information, but as we all know, farm businesses can be quite complicated. So we're trying to give people more packageable tidbits of information as they are working on transitioning their farms. So those are sort of the highlights that I have on the website. As I said, happy to always answer any questions if anybody has problems, if they're setting up their profiles. It's been, as far as I can tell, based on the conversations I've had with people, it's been going pretty smoothly so far. And, people are getting contacted through the website. But again, it just relaunched in December. And so we're still, building back up and, trying to spread through word of mouth and all sorts of other ways that this is a resource that's out there, and encourage more people to join. So I will stop sharing and answer any questions if there are any.
Yeah, we invite folks to add any questions you have for Jen in the chat or in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom pane. It should be the Q&A icon. And while we're waiting for some questions to come in, Jen, I was just curious from your perspective. I know there are a lot of technical service providers and extension agents, and was just thinking, are there ways that you found have been helpful for people who are on the ground in a community to use this tool to help populate this tool and use it in their work, connecting farmers and farm seekers?
Yeah, I think the biggest help is the people who are the boots on the ground. Because the farm seekers tend to be younger, they are a little bit more savvy. And so there's always going to be more farm seekers than there are farm owners, just, it's the law of numbers basically. But there's a more comfort for that cohort to get on the website. And so people who are out actually meeting with landowners and talking with them and explaining to them what the site is and that they don't need to be scared of it, that has been the biggest help. But, this is just one tool among many, of course, because as we all know, there's parts of the state where internet access just isn't very good. So this isn't going to be a tool that would be, necessarily the best thing for someone in Dickinson County potentially. But so we're trying to make this as robust as possible and then provide as many wraparound services as we can.
Okay, thanks. And there's a question from Sally Price wondering about how many farmers and farm seekers are registered on the site right now. Just curious to get the magnitude at this point.
Yeah, so obviously it fluctuates, but I would say, I think the last time I checked, there were somewhere between 35 and 50 farms, and then farm seekers was more, I think we're up at maybe 120, something like that.
Okay. Farm seekers.
And then one of the things that we did with this revamp as well is in the old site, you couldn't see any of the profiles without, you couldn't get any information as to what was out there without creating a profile and signing in. And so we ended up with a lot of people who didn't really want to be on the site necessarily, but were just kind of curious as to what was out there. So I'm very hopeful that the way that we have it now, and since I am, approving all of them, that we're the only people that are going into the site are people that are actually serious about it. And it's not, maybe a realtor just looking to see what's out there. That's that sort of account that we would get in the old site occasionally.
Okay, great. And we have a question from Megan in the chat wondering about, are there grants and programs to help with purchasing land? Just thinking about that barrier for land accessibility and the cost of land now, if there are any programs that can support, whether it's grants or loans in acquiring land.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any grants, but I mean, farm credit, I think does loans, that sort of thing. But I mean, that is one of the biggest challenges, obviously, is just the cost, which is why, the lease to own option is potentially a good one. I have been doing some research into Maryland yes, FSA, that's a good point. They have low interest programs. Yep. Maryland does have a program where they offer low interest loans in exchange for young farmers purchasing a property and then putting it under easement, which is something that I think would be really interesting, but they have a lot more money than we do, which is always the challenge.
Yeah. We have another question here, wondering if there are any success stories you might be able to share about folks finding and connecting with land or farmers through the Farm Seeker webpage or the FarmLink webpage.
Yeah, there are a couple. One of the challenges with it, however, is because people can connect behind the scenes and they don't necessarily need us. I think there are more successes out there that we just haven't heard about. This is a problem for all Farm Seeker programs. They all have the same issue, but I know of one gentleman who had kind of a greenhouse situation, vegetables and all that, found someone through the site, had a long-term partnership with them. That farmer then went on and started their own business. And so he came back to the site and found another farmer. And then, yeah, I mean, I know of, let's think, there's another young man who had a beef cattle operation and was looking to expand, and so needed to find land, relatively close to the rest of his beef cattle. And so was able to find, I think, a lease to purchase option that was, nearby. So yeah, I mean, and of course, sometimes it takes time because it's going to be what type of land is available at any given point in time. So
yeah, thanks, Jen. And then we have a question from Bill in the Q&A feature. Have you been able to get real estate agencies involved in including properties in the database, or at least telling farm landowners about this, or maybe listing some of these properties from Zillow onto the Farm Seeker platform?
yeah, I mean, we share the information certainly with real estate agents. I think one of the challenges is that the priority of a real estate agent is to sell the property as quickly as possible, whereas this type of program is geared more towards maybe the farmer isn't quite ready to sell or is looking to develop a partnership over time, or, you know, get comfortable with a new farmer or get someone in to help with the farm before transitioning it. So it's more of a longer term, like long view, as opposed to kind of like the turn the property over. But we certainly do share the information with real estate agents and encourage them to, you know, if they have someone that would be an appropriate candidate, to get it up there.
Great. Thanks, Jen. We have a question from Kristen in the chat. Wondering if the site can be used to find farm partners to do shared farming and production rather than outright sale or lease. So if there's a way of finding farmer collaborators on the website.
That is an interesting question. I mean, we haven't set it up that it could be that way, but presumably, I mean, if you potentially searched for people who were in your area, if they indicated in their profile that that would be something they'd be open to, I mean, potentially it could be. But that isn't something that we had set it up initially to do.
Okay, great. Well, I'll give it one more second. If anybody has any additional questions, please add them here to the Q&A feature or the chat feature. And we have one more that just came in from Sean, wondering, do some landowners lease to multiple small acreage land seekers? So could one of the farm landowners perhaps have leases with multiple people from this site?
Yeah, I mean, they could certainly. I'm not aware of anyone who does that, simply because managing multiple leases, you know, that's just more work and overhead. But I mean, it certainly is something that they could do.
Great. We've got some folks coming in with in the chat. Sally just mentioned they'll be encouraging a farmer in Percival to sign up. They have no heirs. And I also I would love to encourage folks who are on the site to help get the word out and let people know this is an option for people who have farmland and people who are seeking farmland. Let's see. Luke has a question here. How do you keep the data updated? Do you rely primarily on farmers or do you take the initiative?
Yeah, so we rely on the folks who have a profile to keep it updated. However, after, I believe it's 6 months, if they don't actively elect to stay part of it, they will be archived and then they could, you know, come back. But the idea there is to try and, you know, make sure that if something has happened, the property is no longer available, that it doesn't just stay in the system forever.
Okay. Yeah. Any last questions before we wrap up? We'll wait just one more minute in case folks have any more, but Jen, this is just such great work because I had been on the previous site and there were lots of constraints. And so it was so neat to see the relaunch. And I know that took a lot of work, a lot of partnership, and a lot of organizations coming together to make this a resource for our community. So again, I encourage everyone to peruse it and share the word about it.
We have another question that just came in from Sherry. Farm workers are so hard to find and can influence farm viability. Can the site be used to help aspiring farmers get experience in a farm job without the promise of purchase?
Yeah, so that is why we included the partnership option when you are filling out what it is that you're hoping to do. So there are people on there, farm seekers, who have signed up and don't have an interest in purchasing or leasing, but they're looking to create a partnership with a farmer to, you know, get that experience. And potentially in some cases, I would imagine, to see if, you know, they're trying to decide which way they want to go. And it's always good to know, what actually goes into a dairy farm or chickens or vegetables before you you commit and get too overly invested.
Great. And we still have a couple more questions coming in. Encourage folks to keep adding them. We'll stay on as long as the questions come in. But from Bill, is there an existing state list that you can use of owners and operators of farmland in the state? I understand a lot of farm owners are difficult to find. So I guess thinking about an alternative way of connecting with people who might own farmland.
Yeah, there is no sort of comprehensive state list of farms because you don't have to sign up with the state to have a farm. So, and a farm could be 5,000 acres or it could be a half an acre. So we don't have that. However, we have been reaching out to the different industries. So I've talked with the Dairymen's Association and, their interest in making sure that dairy farms can stay in dairy, but knowing because they're out there working with the dairy farmers, they have a better feel for who might be coming up on retirement, who might be ready to make that transition or approaching the time to make that transition. So we are trying to get in front of those different groups so that they can facilitate all of that. Because the thing about transitioning farmland is it can be done successfully, but it can't be done successfully the day before someone passes away, or, it takes time to set up the various, legal entities or whatever it is that needs to be done for any particular family to transition a farm. And it just takes time, particularly with some of some of these older farmers who are out in the field until 80 years old and don't want to let go. And it's hard to have a conversation with people to say, we need you to think of your impending death, basically. But if we can get those conversations started early, because farmers care about their land, it's part of who they are, and, they have very clear goals for what that land is going to do. And so, get those conversations started with the people who are out there talking with them. I mean, that's one of the best things we can do to keep things moving.
Thanks, Jen. We have another question, but before we move to that, just want to let folks know we have a real quick survey. We'd love to hear your feedback on the session today. So invite you to take that if you're willing to spend a few minutes just to give us an idea of the session today and any feedback you have. So our question from Sean is, does the site include any features to help folks vet ideal candidates? So things that could help the landowner identify the best leasee and vice versa.
Well, I mean, what we tried to do to help with that is expand the amount of information that we have people put into their profiles. So before, we didn't have anything on, are you farming full-time, part-time? Did you used to farm? Are you an experienced farmer? That sort of information, as well as adding those kind of empty boxes to fill in with whatever you think would be appropriate information to, help as someone is looking through the profiles, see like, oh, okay, this seems like it would be a good fit for us, or, not. So, but as I said, we're always looking to, if there's things out there that people think could make it better. I mean, there's some limitation to it in terms of, having our web developer build things out and all of that, but, we're always looking to make it better. So as people use the site, if there's things that could be really helpful. But then, of course, the other piece on the ideal candidate is that each lease is going to be individual based on the circumstances of the farming operation, what the land looks like, what the facilities are. So it's that can get a little bit harder for us to try and create search criteria on.
Great, thanks so much. And it looks like we've answered all the questions in the chat and in the Q&A feature. So I just want to take a moment to thank you, Jen. It's been really helpful to walk through this website just to see how we could use it as a farmlander or farmland owner or farm seeker. And want to also thank everybody who participated with us today. Thanks for coming and learning about this tool. And again, invite you to share it with other folks that it might be useful for. And Jen's adding her email in the chat. And with that, I'll pass it to our director, Kim Nawalny. Kim, if you have anything you'd like to share before we wrap up.
I just want to thank you, Jen, very much. This site has been a labor of love, and it is definitely feeling it. And I'm just excited. You've done a great job. And folks, you really do. Everyone's got to do their part to get the word out, because it's just one important piece to the farm transfer and acquisition puzzle. And this is the kind of work that requires everyone to pass it on, use it, get people, get their profiles on it. And I know Jen will continue to be a great resource for us all. So thank you.
Great. Thanks again, Jen.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And again, this will be recorded, so we'll send this out on our listserv soon, so you can pass it along to folks in that way as well. So thank you all so much. We'll see you later.